Good morning, everybody. This is VA to VA Live, Mastermind Live. We're so excited to bring you our first one, and we are actually bringing it to you from inside YouTube. I know we wanted to get you caught up on where we were. Our last one was in Google Plus, and HOA stopped, and so we had to do some learning, and we're still learning. But they actually have Hangouts on Air still in YouTube, and you can use it within the YouTube community there. So we did want to let you know that and let you know that we're still here, and we're very excited about our new official season and about being VA to VA Mastermind Live. And so I'm Tammy Durden with Tammy's Office Solutions, and we focus on bookkeeping, digital marketing, as well as virtual assistant services and writing services. And we focus on helping small business to startups and especially also empowering disabled professionals to work with us. So that's who I am. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa and Annette to introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Lisa Kolb. At the moment, my camera is not cooperating, but I am with the owner of Augusta Virtual Assistants, based out of Augusta, Georgia, and I manage a team who helps business owners such as realtors, attorneys, and contractors, and various other types of business owners with administrative, real estate, paralegal, and data entry and other general administrative tasks. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Nanette Telemack with In Essence Virtual Assistants out of Newbury, New Hampshire. I provide general sales, marketing, and administrative support to small businesses, and that's about it.
Great, great. So we told y'all we were going to be discussing how the nitty gritty kind of subcontracting and what that means and how it really looks to our businesses and how we actually do that in real life. What does it really look like? So some of the things that we wanted to talk to you about, first of all, we want to say that we yes, we're experts in some degrees of multi-VA companies because we run them and have been running them, but we love input and we love to hear what others have to say as well. So we're basically talking about today, how do we vet and delegate to team members, and what kind of fees do we say, okay, we're going to give the subcontractor this amount and this is the amount that we need, as the team manager or owner, and we need to be sure that all of our expenses are covered and all of that. So we're going to kind of start with Lisa, and forgive her cameralessness, but she and her cold, poor thing, but she's going to talk to us about how to delegate to the right team member and what does that look like, making that decision and choice. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Tammy. Um, Delegating client work to the right team member, to me, starts with a vetting process of the team member themselves before the client needs to work with a team member. I start
Absolutely.
with I start with an in-depth interview, and of course a vetting process of a background check and checking their experience, their skill sets, and things like that. And once they get through that vetting process and become a team member, at that point, I am very knowledgeable about their particular expertise of skill sets, the experience that they have from in-office work, whether it be in college education and things like that. And I learn more about what they are best at doing.
And Lisa, how do you go about doing that? Do you do applications or resumes, or what do you think the best way to handle that is? Because we've heard, in the past when we first started doing the VA to VA, we talked a lot about what the best way to vet somebody is. A lot of people said they don't need resumes because they own their own businesses as well, and they should have portfolios and things like that. So, what do you find is the best way to do that besides the interview? What is the initial way you look at somebody that's coming into your company?
Some of my team members have never been a virtual assistant before. or had a virtual assistant position. So they won't have a quote unquote portfolio like we would as business owners. They come from a background of being an employee. So some of them, all they have is a resume, and I will accept that. In my in-depth interview, I have pointed questions that I ask them. They need to have the right setup of a home office. They need to be able to manage their time with, outside of a traditional office environment. They need to have a secure, password protected network, not a public network. Confidentiality is a big deal when you're working in the virtual assistant industry, because your clients are moving from a traditional employee relationship to a business owner to business owner relationship, on top of the fact that you are virtual. So you have got to provide that client with the assurance that their information is kept confidential and safe. So some have, going back to what you asked, some have resumes, some have been in the virtual assistant industry and have a portfolio to show work that they have accomplished in the past, whether it be website design, graphic design, copywriting, things like that. So it can differ depending on what their background is.
Now, Lisa, some of those lists that you gave us of what you collect, or the things that you ask and look at and expect from a potential VA of yours, is a really good list. Is that something that maybe you could give us, and we will share it on our site? Because I know a lot of people didn't have time to take those notes, and myself included. I thought that was a really good list, and I'd love to have it. So is that something you'll share with us later?
Oh, absolutely. I have no
Great.
problem with that.
Excellent.
After being in the business 4 or 5 years, I've kind of developed the
Mm-hmm.
best questions to ask. I have a particular background check website that they go to, and they pay only $20 to get their background check, and they send me a copy of it. I've developed different ways of vetting a team member that works well for me. So I have no problem sharing what works for me. And then others may have different ways, or they may be able to tweak it themselves.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure, because we all have developed systems and processes, and we're always tweaking them and, redoing things, that as things come along and work better for us, we certainly do that. So I think it's always helpful to share with one another some of those things that do work well for us. I think that would be great if you don't mind throwing it into a document or PDF and sharing that. That would be excellent. I know I would appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of the others out there watching will appreciate it too.
Yeah, that's fine. And going forward, after I had vetted them, then I set them up on like a trial basis, a 30-day trial basis. I give them a client to work with. Usually it's an existing client. Of course, I tell the client what is going on, and then I monitor their time management skills. I monitor how quickly they communicate with the client and how effectively they communicate with the client. I monitor the thoroughness of the tasks that they take on. And if I like what I see after those 30 days, then they are on board to receive a client of their own, depending on their experience, skill sets, and even their schedule. When I do contact a team member with a potential client, I always ask them what their schedule looks like, because they're not an employee of mine. I put them in a team member's lap. If the team member has enough going on, enough clients, or going on the side, they let me know what their schedule looks like, and they keep me abreast of that. And then if one cannot take it on, then I call another team member. One thing I love about my team is they each have their own particular skill sets that I use them for, like the paralegal and the website design and the real estate. But then they have other skill sets like data entry and follow-up calls and things like that that they can do. Even copywriting, a couple of them will take on copywriting if they don't have a client at the moment that needs their particular skill set. So they blend well together, and it's not like I have to bring on another team member all the time if something, off the wall comes in.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I like that fact. That's what I was going to ask you. So in the beginning, when you're vetting, say, a brand new person who hasn't done VA work, so what you're saying is you have them work on a client that you're working on just so that you can see how they're actually working, how their time is managed, and all of those things. Is that what you're saying? And then you present their own client to them. Is that correct?
Yes, I have a couple of existing clients that have been with me for years. I do general stuff for them. And then, I have contracts and stuff like that. And they let me use them as guinea pigs on occasion. I haven't had to use anybody as a guinea pig in a while. But they are vetted clients. They are loyal clients, I would say, that have given me permission to use them as guinea pigs if I were to bring on a new team member, because they know that there are tasks I can give that new team member that are not super critical to their business, maybe like that data entry and things like that. And I monitor that because I have all of the access codes to get into where I've got the team member going in.
Oops, I was muted. Sorry. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think that's a great way to do it. And I think that you've certainly mastered the VA team work, subcontracting model. I mean, I think you truly have mastered that and have that down to a science in what you're doing. And everybody works differently. You hand off your clients directly to the subcontractor. Some people do project management. If they have a client that has, multiple aspects to them. So maybe they want website, maybe they want marketing, they want, various aspects of it. So like I've had clients like that where I just hand a piece of it to a subcontractor, but then I have to work on some of it as well, or I have to get somebody else to work on it too. And so that can be a little tricky, but you're doing project management then also as the owner. But I do like that you hand the whole client over, which is nice. But then do you monitor communications, or, I mean, how does that work then? How does that look later on? How do you know they're effectively taking care of that client and doing what the client's asked them to do?
I stay in touch with both the client and the team member on a monthly basis, checking in to see how things are working. And the client will always, if there is a hiccup, the client will always contact me, because I tell them in our initial interview, and then after the contract is signed, even before the contract is signed, I let them know that they will be working directly with this team member. But if there are any issues at all, they can feel free to contact me at any time. And I am there to make sure that any issues are taken care of. So, and I've had team members come to me and say, hey, this new client I'm working with, and this did happen a few years ago, raised his voice at me, was talking condescending to me. And luckily he was a short-term project client. And I said, if he does it again, because she told me, she said, I can handle it, but I mean, I just didn't appreciate it. And I said, if he does it again, I'm stepping in, because I'm not going to have a client talk down to any of you, any of us. I said, and I will take care of it. And she went ahead and finished the short-term project, and he was on his way. That stands out because it's only happened once, but it can happen. It shows you what can happen. And I do have a clause in my contract that tells every client that we are not going to work with any client that makes us feel uncomfortable. We're not going to do anything that is illegal or unethical.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think too that our subcontractors, our team has to know that we have their back and that we appreciate them and value them very much. At least I know I do with my team, and I tell them that. You know, and that's just a great example of how we do value them very much and how we're going to have their backs and everything. But you don't even, so you don't worry about the email communications, getting copies of that or anything else in the end. That's just up to them and between them. Is that correct?
No, I mean, yes, I do monitor the communication.
Okay. So they copy you on everything. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. That's what I was wondering because I figured, you know, when something comes up, you need to look back at least and see what's going on, right?
absolutely. I
It
mean,
kind of eliminates, word of mouth stuff, if when a problem
Hmm.
comes up, because you can see the time, the time uh, of the conversation, and you could monitor when who said what when, and I think that's good for you because in a situation where the client was talking down to your subcontractor, you can see the kind of relationship that's going on. So I think that's a good safe thing to do is have them copy you.
exactly. When the communication is in print, that was a phone call. Those were several phone calls. So of course, I don't get getting audio copies of the phone conversations. But yes, any written correspondence I do get copies of because I mean there have been some hiccups in the past, and there are two sides to every story, and I want everybody to come out and it be a win-win situation. So having those written, being copied on those written correspondence does help a lot in getting the full story and getting the wrinkles.
Do you
Through.
how when someone has full, um, you know, when your subcontractor is the one who's dealing with the client directly on a regular basis, how often are you touching base to make sure everything's going well? Is it once a week? At the end of the week? How many times are you doing that for both the client as well as the subcontractor?
I do it on a monthly basis, and it seems to be fine unless there's a hiccup. If there's a hiccup, then I'm contacted by either one of those. But walking, just stepping in on a monthly basis to see how things are going seems to be going well right now.
Sounds like a testament to you having good subcontractors working for you.
I have an awesome team. I really do. I have an awesome team. Several of them have been with me since the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And we have great communication and we know what's going on in each other's lives. Like I said, they let me know what their schedules are looking like and go out to eat. I go to movies with the local ones. I stay. Last night, one of them emailed me and said, hope you are doing okay with the hurricane and everything. Thinking about you. Hope you don't get too much of effects because we are in Georgia, but we are inland, 2 hours inland from the coast. So we will get some rain and wind, but we won't get anything of what the coast is going to get. So, just touching
Mm-hmm.
base to reach out and say, hey, just thinking about you and hope that you're doing well and you're prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's point number one. And when we're talking about delegating, is make sure you have a great, strong team, and when you vet, make sure that relationship is good for you because then it works for your clients as well.
Yeah, and the way that you do that vetting is huge, and it gives you a lot of insight into them. And so that's why I think it's really important for those that are watching to maybe have that on a document just so that they can kind of have a guideline, a simple guideline to go by, at least in the beginning, till they formulate their own processes and systems. At least, I mean, that's what I was thinking anyway. And even with myself, I always find it helpful, to talk to others or hear what others are doing. It helps me tweak my systems sometimes if there's something helpful. So
Right.
thank you.
And the best part of it is when I'm doing a needs assessment with a client, I know what my team offers. I
Hmm.
know when that client is talking, my wheels are turning to see which team member is going to fit best with that client. And then I know my team members' schedules. Of course, I always call to say, hey, what's your schedule looking like? Things can happen by a simple phone call. We all know that. But I don't just say, hey, I've got a client for you. I say, what does your schedule look like? I've done a needs assessment with a potential client. This is what they're needing. I thought about you. This is something that someone you would like to work with. You want to communicate with them. So to know the team well enough that when I'm speaking with that client, I'm already picking out one or two team members that are going to fit best with them makes my job very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have had a couple of instances in the 5 years where I had a client come to me and say, it's just really not working out with this team member. Have you got someone else?
Mm-hmm.
And it is sticky to go with the team member they're working with to tell them that, but I have not had they have not taken it personally. As a matter of fact, the team member is usually feeling the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I contact another team member, and then the original team member helps transition the new team member. I've had that happen. And they stay in communication with each other to transition that client to another team member. And we all stay in communication together. And it works well because we're a team.
That's great. That's really great because so often they could take it personally. But if they've been doing it for years too, they know that sometimes some clients aren't for you, and others work better with the other people. And so that, I would think is huge too as you vet potential team members that you know all their strengths and their weaknesses as well. So the fact that that's only happened once is pretty amazing.
That's true, and it only happened about a year and a half ago. And everybody worked well to transition it over. And it's hard to anticipate everything that can happen in a virtual assistant business, much less a virtual assistant multi-team business. But I've only had a couple of real headaches. That's all. So anyway,
That's awesome, though. I really appreciate all the insight you shared with us on that, Lisa. As you can tell, we're being very open and vulnerable ourselves and sharing these things with you. And we always appreciate you sharing stories and comments with us also about what's going on in your businesses and how subcontractors are helping and affecting your business, or if you have some hiccups in that area too, we'd love to hear about it and even hear about some of the subjects you want us to discuss. We're always open to that. So anyway, we want to, make sure you know that we're open to that. So the next thing that we're really going to discuss, this is where we're getting into the nitty gritty of it, everybody. And we're going to just kind of discuss with you some of the ways that subcontractors are reimbursed or paid. Okay. So basically, when we talk about subcontractors and payment and things of that nature, there's a lot of variances. So many people have so many different views on what a subcontractor should be paid, what they should be paid, and all of that things. And you can't, you have to do what's right for you and your business and not what's right for everybody else. So let me just say, in the end, it's your business and you're the one that knows the bills you have to pay for the company, and you're the one that knows what's going to work for you. So I just put that out there first. And I'll just say a lot of times we hear subcontractors being paid 50-50 and 60-40 or 40-60. I've heard it that way too. And I just wanted to walk you through an example even. And I know that when I first started subcontracting, I was way off there. It was way off. I was paying much more, but I didn't realize how much it was affecting my business when I did that. And you can really lose money very quickly if you're not abreast of what all of your bills are. Make sure before you even hire subcontractors, every single invoice you have every month. Make sure you know this and have a budget and things of that nature, so that when you have a contractor come in and a client come in that's going to be with you, you need to know how much of that you can afford to pay your subcontractor. So maybe it's not even 60-40 or 50-50, but maybe it's something else in between there. So it's up to you. But so, you know, just for a quick instance, if you paid 60/40, the subcontractor getting 60, you getting 40%. And say you have a monthly contract or a retainer of $500 with a client, and your subcontractor is working solely with them. Well, then, you know, an example of that is that the subcontractor would then receive 300 a month, and you would receive 200 of that. Now that sounds great, right? Because you don't think you're doing any of the work, or the subcontractor is going to say you're not doing any work, which is totally false, because there is so much work behind the scene that people don't even realize. Not just, you have to invoice, you have to vet the client, vet the subcontractor, you have to market your company. There's programs and softwares that you're using to help that client that they may not even know about, or that your subcontractor doesn't realize. So let's say it's a social media client, okay, and you need to have a buffer account, and you're going to do the $10 buffer account. You're not going to have the $100 one, and then maybe you subscribe to a graphics program so you can help put pictures out and you know, quotes and other things, and say that's 25 a month. And maybe there's some other variants of programs and things that you need in order to do this as well, and say that's another 50. So say it's approximately $85 a month, just overhead to keep, you know, this client where they need to be. So that $85 now is coming out of your 200. And so now you're only seeing 150 for your time and efforts that probably spent hours and hours on, you know, and so you have to figure that out too, that how much your time and how much you're spending in that. And, you know, and I just wanted to share a quick story about what happened to me recently. I was doing some answering service just for a couple of clients. One client had multiple lines though, and I had a subcontractor involved, and I thought everything was going fine and that we were just running along. But what I ended up finding out, first of all, we know that as much as women like to multitask, you know, they've proven now in studies that's really not a good thing to multitask, that you should stick with one thing and focus on the one thing. So what I found was, when I was answering the lines in my time period that I had, it was interrupting my workflow completely and causing it to be very disruptive with other clients, and it was a real problem. So, so I ended up more and more, and then I was having more meetings of clients, potential clients, and different things like that that I had to be at. So more and more I was having to ask my subcontractor to cover the lines all the time. And what I ended up figuring out, and it had become a problem for months and months, and I wasn't sure what to do, because I liked the clients, you know, I was glad to have the clients, and I thought I was making money, you know, still. But when I sat down and really figured out how much time and effort I was putting in, and what I was paying the subcontractor, what I paid for the phone, you know, and all of those things, I was actually losing money. And, you know, it looks like money coming in, but in the end, that money was going right back out, and I was actually not being paid anything. I was actually losing money. And so what I ended up doing, and this was a suggestion that somebody offered to me too, was I went to my subcontractor and said, you know, would you be interested in doing these and just taking them? And she was happy to do it. And so now I've empowered her to have her own business, which is really neat. But I had to get to that place where I could let go of that, you know, because that was something I never really wanted, but it just kind of happened anyway. And then as I became more focused in other areas in my business, I realized that, you know, this wasn't working. And so I would just say, be very careful and make sure that you are, first of all, very clear on what you're paying out every month for your own business, first of all. And second of all, what you can afford to pay that subcontractor. Like, think about it in terms of monetary, if you look at your clients and stuff, and then figure out what that percentage is, because that's really kind of, you almost have to back into it sometimes. Now, the other part of this too, and we said we're getting into the nitty gritty of it, the other part of this is the legalities with all of it too, because the legal aspects of this, and it was funny because when I was looking up some things for today, it was kind of funny because I read about, somebody was asking about percentages and what to pay, and not even necessarily in the VA business, but even in other businesses, they have subcontractors. And they were talking to their lawyer about doing like the 60-40, and the lawyer just had a fit and said he couldn't put it in a contract and all of this. And because they like to be black and white, they want to see numbers. They want to see, okay, this is what will hold up in court. And so even legally, you have to be careful what you're doing and what you're putting on there and what, now, yes, if you vet well, like Lisa, and you have a great team, more than likely you're not going to need to worry about that contract, but you still need to have it in place and have certain restrictions on it. And you also you want the non-compete clause and just a lot of variances there. But it's just kind of funny because this quote that I found on one of the things that I was reading when I was looking at things, it just said a rule of thumb for independent contractors is that the vendor should be allowed to mark up your pay rate by 15% when billing the client. So in other words, that we should be able to at least mark it up 15% so that we're making somewhat of a profit. Now, what they equated that to, though, also was like if it was in-house, that you would be making 50% because you have to cover that employee and the employee benefits. But they were basically saying that, 15% was probably all you needed to mark it up. Or in other words, the way we would look at it is we've given a quote to a client or they know our packages, and then we're going to split that up and basically we would get the 15% and the contractor would get the other. However, we know that that's not always the case anymore because today's world, and especially VAs who are tech savvy and want your clients to have certain programs and advantages, you're going to have some things that you're going to have to pay. And you need to include that. Now, I wanted to ask Lisa and Nanette as well, do you take that out ahead of time, say the $500, would you take out what it costs to have that client with you and then give them the 40-60 split? Or do you do the 40-60 straight out or 50-50 or whatever? I'm not saying that's what we do. I'm just saying whatever percentage you do, would you do it that way? I'm just curious what you guys think. Chime in.
Okay, I'll go first. I do the needs assessment with the client, and then I talk to the team member. And hold on a moment, I'm about to cough. Excuse me. Then, when talking to the team member and telling them what the client needs, I ask them what they want to make.
Mm.
And then, based on that, I add 40% on top of that.
So you allow the subcontractor to set their rate, is what you're saying.
Because my team is set up the way it is.
I think she's having trouble again. Nanette, maybe go ahead and take over, Nanette, for us a minute and tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, that's something I'm grappling with right now. I have put together packages to cover my overhead. The thing I'm concerned with, and because I don't have, unlike Lisa, I don't have a long-term group of people that I've worked with for a very long time. So, I'm open, depending on the client I get, I'm open to reaching out to my network of people that I know or familiar with a certain skill set, if this is what the client wants, and then offering a price to them, that would they do this job for this amount of money, kind of get a feel about what they anticipate making, and then that helps me in terms of my package deal. But when you don't know what a subcontractor wants to get or what they think they want to get, it's hard for me to be able to put together a package for a client. So I think for me, I stay on a standard pay of what a standard price of what, hourly rate that I would pay somebody to take on this work. I'd probably be the project. I may be the face front person of the client, so that I'm the client just knows me and the work is being delegated out. And that, in which case, there's a basic standard price that I would probably offer to a subcontractor to do, because they won't have to be speaking with the client. They won't have to be doing, they just be doing the work. So that's probably how I would probably approach it. If there's an opportunity where I rather offload it to a client, say it's bookkeeping, because I don't do bookkeeping and I don't like bookkeeping, then I'd probably give them a bigger split, because they will be handling the work and they will be dealing with the customer directly.
Right.
And make sure the split that I take covers my overhead of the marketing that brought the customer in, the marketing, the administrative work that comes into having that client. So then they'd get a bigger cut because they're doing most of the work. So that's how I see it. Not that I've done this before, but that's the model that I would rather follow.
I'm muted. That's kind of where I am, or
Yeah.
what I do too is, I basically have packages, on my site, and this is how much we charge. And so the subcontractors I use know the percentage. I'm upfront. I'm very transparent. And so if they want to, if they're going to work with us and work with the client, then they understand the rate they agree to and what they agree to when we do that. Now, my rates have gone up over the last year or so, which I had to do. I was way too low. And a lot of VAs start out low, but I will tell you, and I wasn't sure I believed it. You always hear that you'll get higher, what is the word I'm looking for? But basically, that if you have those rates and you can do the work, obviously, because you need to have the skills, but then people will pay that, and it'll be clients that'll appreciate it instead of nickel and diming you for the little bit of money that you make. And so I've been a little bit surprised by that, but it's good, and it's a good surprise. And so I'm basically at the point where my subcontractors know that when I get work, they know the percentage that they get and the percentage I get. But I'm still struggling with, because what people don't understand, and you all, as you're starting your multi-VA companies, or if you're already in them, there's a fine balance of where you're making money, and then you split off this work to them, and suddenly yours goes down. Your income suddenly, or your revenue goes down considerably, until you build up more clients to get back to where you were, and then hopefully even more. But people don't understand that, and people don't understand the behind the scenes administrative, bookkeeping, billing, all of those things and programs to keep up, to keep you current and to keep you marketable, that go on behind the scenes. So there is a lot of work that goes into being a multi-VA company. And some people just think, oh, that's great, you get somebody else to do the work. But that's not it at all. And there's a lot to manage. And even if you're doing it like Lisa, there's still a lot to manage, because you have to keep track of the clients. You have to make sure everybody's, where they need to be, your billing, and all of that still. So there is just a lot to do and a lot to keep up with. But we wanted to at least give you guys a broad spectrum of what is being done in the marketplace right now with subcontractors. And that's where it is at the moment. Generally, what I found was the consensus was 60-40 or 40-60, or even 50-50. But that was kind of the general rule of thumb I found.
I don't even want to go there in terms of, I'm trying to avoid that. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
may know that for myself,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not something I would want to express to a subcontractor that I'm working with. Like, for instance, what I'm pricing out to a client is my business. It's more, I separate my relationship with a subcontractor and what I'm paying them to do a job to what I have said to the client and what I offer, my services cost. This way, I don't want to have somebody who's a subcontractor saying, well, you're getting this amount, how come I'm getting only this? Because, I don't want to get into that discussion with them. Unless they plan on marketing themselves, building their own web page, doing their own administrative task and invoicing, finding clients, I don't really want to get into that with them. This is the job. This is the cost. Either one of you don't, that's where I want to keep it, because it's sort of like, it's because they're benefiting by being subcontracting with me, by that I brought in the work. I did the hard work. I did all that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, I'm offering you to make some money on a skill set that you have, and and I'm not going to try to cheat them, because I understand what it means to do that work. I've done it. But at the same time, I'm running the business, I'm bringing in the clients, I have that overhead to consider, and so I want to be fair, but at the same time I also have to make a profit. And markups are not profits. There's a difference, and I could talk when my part comes in. I want to talk a little bit about that. But you have to be, women have a hard time really pricing out their value. Women have a hard time doing that. And I struggle with that. You struggle with that. Everybody does. We have a lot of value to offer, and we're very diligent, and we're really hard workers. And there's a cost to that, and it should never be cheapened.
That's right. Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I just have found, and I used to do that. I used to keep it, this is mine and all of that. And I don't know, I've not had any trouble. Not that I don't say, because I know anybody can go on my site and see my packages. So I don't say, this is the price and this is what you get. You know what I mean? I don't say that at all, but I just tell them, this is how much you would, this is what it's going to be. This is the price of this job if you would like to, to work with me and be on my team. So I don't necessarily say, oh, well, they're paying me $500 and you get $300. I don't say that. And it's never been an issue so far.
Yeah.
But I am somewhat transparent in saying the percentage and things like that sometimes.
Right.
It depends on the contractor too,
Right.
because that's a little bit different as well.
Right.
And every contractor is different. But I also want to move on. I don't want to get stuck, but I know everybody wanted to kind of know the nitty gritty, and it just seems like it's something we never talk about in any VA forum. You don't talk about price. You don't talk about how much you charge. You don't talk, all these things, the splits and all of that. And so we just wanted to kind of bring it out in the open and say, look, this is generally what happens. It doesn't mean that's what you have to do, but take into account all these things. And then we need to move forward and leave room for growth, which Nanette's going to tell us about.
Right.
Thanks.
Well,
Nanette.
yeah. Well, when you're growing your company, pricing is part of that, right? How do you grow? Because you have to, like you said before, I was underpricing myself and I had to change. And if you're going to get into a multi-VA business, you have to make sure, you have to really think hard and about your pricing structure and what you're doing, because you don't want to get into the position where you're paying someone else and you're not getting enough money to make your bills, and for all the applications that you're paying for, that you're providing to that subcontractor to do the job. So, those things you have to think about that. And again, every business, has to make a profit or go away. So if you must price the work or your services to include the cost of your goods, your applications, your time, all your overhead expenses, all your your office equipment that you need. You have to price that all out to make a reasonable profit. You have to make sure that your pricing covers all that, but yet gives you a profit on top of that. And you also have to consider, when you're doing your pricing, the downtimes when you don't have customers coming in, or you don't have as many businesses coming to you, and which requires you to do a lot of marketing and push, and that's money. So you have to think about all of that. And I know that a lot of virtual assistants are starting to go into packaging, and I value based pricing, and I think that's where I'm going, and I think that's to all of our benefits to think about that. And it offers higher profits, less administration than if you're doing hourly, and you have to kind of build out, constantly invoice and monitor your time that you're spending for a client. And I think it also and unfortunately this is, some clients, cheapen your experience and your value by worrying about time. I think, what we're trying to do by value-based pricing is that, is um, I'm trying to train the client that it's not about nickeling and diming. It's about getting quality work and the experiences that I offer to help them be successful, and that there's a cost to that. And I think that that's something that it's a little bit of a training that you have to do with certain clients, because the client's going to look and say, well, I had another virtual assistant and they only did it for that amount. But then I would bring up a scenario of, like, to coat, and you can get a coat at Goodwill for $1, but you can also get the same on a coat at Macy's. So if I just want a coat to cover my head, that Goodwill cost is going to be great. But if I'm looking at quality and I care about fashion, I'm going to Macy's to get that coat. So, and I care about, if I care about those things. So to me, that kind of sums up what I'm trying to propose to when I have package pricing. The difference between just covering my head, but getting a quality and the fashion that I like, go to, present myself well in the world. So
I love that example. I love that. I just have to say, I just had to stop you and say that was just a great example, covering my head versus looking good.
Yeah, exactly.
And telling your client, look, you can cover your head for $5 an hour.
Exactly.
Or you can be dressed up with me.
And look really good.
Yes, my package, ta-da.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I love it. I love it. I just have to say, I love that.
That was really good. I have to say that was really, really good.
Well, that's how I like to see it. So,
I agree with you. But like you said, we undervalue ourselves so much. And even
right.
I did, even when I first did the package pricing, I was still way under. And I even had somebody not long ago in the VA community who is a well known and liked and everything, tell me to raise my pricing still from what I've raised it to, that I'm still too low. And so, that's just what we do. I mean, as women and in general.
Right. And you're always making excuses like, I don't want to really do that. But that's part of being in business. You have to be a little hard nosed about that to yourself, because and we can all do it and be fair. I mean, I'm not trying to be greedy, and but I'm trying to be, fair. I have to think about myself as a business, or else I'm out of business in 6 months.
We're valuable. We're valuable, And
Right.
as Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful likes to say, if you're not making money or profit, right, you're just a hobby.
That's right.
You're not a
Exactly.
business. You're a hobby.
And the thing is that to remember too is that we get into this so that we have flexibility and ability to make, to enjoy life. Now, if you're going to be stuck chained to your desk, working for these clients and not and under pricing yourself, then you're doing the same thing you did when you worked. You know.
Absolutely. So true.
Yeah.
I so agree with that. I so agree with that. We do struggle with our value. I saw a virtual assistant the other day post on Facebook, in a closed group that I'm in, women's networking group. Should I? She's just getting started, and she said, should I offer like a free first couple of hours or something like that? And everybody jumped in, including me, and said, no, they have to see how did I put that? They have to see the value in what you offer, not the cost of what you offer. And if they see you diminishing your value, then that's what they're going to give you.
Yeah, you get back what you're putting out. And I found that to be true in business. When my rates were really low, I was getting these clients who just wanted a lot for very little, and it was very taxing. And I thought, what am I doing? And all of that. And whereas this, now that I've bumped it up a bit, I have these wonderful clients who appreciate me, and it's just lovely. I just love it. So we have to do that. We have to. I think you're muted.
And it's it's really, there's a lot of research that you can go online to find out how to do that. I found sites about value-based pricing, like the steps on how to do that, and cost plus pricing. The
Yeah.
cost. It's just like a product, right? You have
Hmm.
the cost of how to make it, and then what's the profit on top of that. So I mean, it's services. I don't. There's not that much difference. My People forget to price in your time and effort. Your I'm constantly thinking what works best for that client. I'm going to try this and that, and it may be fast for me, and that's great, but I'm the one doing the thinking to make sure the customer's happy. I'm the one doing the thinking of solving that issue that the customer may not know. So that's a value. you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I was going to say too, I know that there's at least one VA, maybe more, who also have some, and I think it was a free webinar on doing packaging pricing and how to do that. And that's where I first began thinking, oh, I get it now, because I couldn't imagine doing that in the beginning, and it didn't make sense to me. And now, when I took that, it wasn't long after that I, finally developed mine. But yes, sometimes you have to go and do some research and find those tools to help you become empowered to be able to do that, empower yourself.
And it's not an exact science; it's a process.
Yeah,
So, right, and that you
everybody's
can tweak.
company is different.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And I keep my hourly rate because there are times where I
Hmm.
don't, advertise it, but it's there. So when I'm talking with a client and they're saying, well, I don't know if I need all of this or whatever, I just know this one thing, then I can go back to what an hourly rate would be. But with
But
the,
they pay more, don't
but they
they?
pay more.
Yes, that's what I've learned too, is if they want it just by the hour, and it's rare, but on a rare occasion, and if I think I can work with the client, I'm the same. I
Yeah.
would, but they're going to pay a lot more than
They
just
are,
getting the
but
package.
but then you could always, and this makes you look good. You could always go back after, say, you've been working for them for 6 months or so, and say,
Mhm.
look, with this package deal that I have here, you could have saved yourself this amount of money. Why don't we move to that on a regular basis?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
And
because
then
we
you're
want what's best for the client. Like you said,
exactly
we're not trying to gouge them or anything else. We're just trying to value ourselves
right,
and give them great service and products. So
right,
that's really what it's about.
Great
exactly.
words of wisdom, Tammy. I love that.
How did I do that?
That was awesome.
Oh my. Well, Nanette, give us some last words on making our businesses move to the future and how we do that. Could you finish, how can we move our businesses into the future with doing subcontracting? How do we set money aside? How does that look? You're muted, honey.
That's I mean, I think how do you move forward? I mean, it's constantly evaluating how your systems are running. Is your relationship with your subcontractors working well? Is it causing you? You're always evaluating. You have to. So yeah, I would then say every quarter, maybe looking at how you're running your business. Are your pricings working for you? Are your subcontractors working for you? Is there some tweaks you have to do? People you have to let go, or not use, or is everything's working fine, but it's time to expand, and that means marketing. Having a marketing plan in place. So I think, how do you grow from there? It means to be putting metrics in place to make sure that your business is running towards the goal that you want to achieve, whatever that is. So I would say that if it's setting a certain amount of money that you want to make, or if it's having more freedom to do other things and you don't find you're getting that freedom, then that's the time to reassess what kind of changes you need to make.
Absolutely. You're hired, the business coach, okay? You set my metrics, please. I think we get so busy in the day to day and caught up in our businesses and how we're managing them and,
Hmm.
everything else that we forget that we
Hmm.
need to sit back sometimes and just take a look. Okay, are
Right.
we really making money? What does it look like today? And that's why one of the things, I mean, I love FreshBooks because I invoice on there. But
Hmm.
if you run your expenses through it too, on a daily basis, you can see where you are. It shows you, are you making a profit or aren't you? Where are
Right.
you? As well
Right.
as QuickBooks, online does that also, that you can really see where you are. So I really encourage y'all to use some tools. You don't have to sit down and spend hours on it to see where
Hmm.
you are. You can know that on a daily basis, but then every quarter, every 6 months, dig in and see, okay, well, why are those expenses high? What can I
Right.
cut back? Where
Right.
do I want my money to be spent? I'm in the process of doing that right now.
Right.
So, trying to cut back some expenses because I want some other focus. And so I need the money to focus it there and,
Yeah.
some of those things. And to help grow our businesses, sometimes that means taking money and putting it into things to help grow. So
Right.
marketing and things like that, it's going to take that. And so
Right.
just because you're getting, say, 40 or 50 or whatever percentage you're getting, okay, and you're going to pay yourself something, of course, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I mean, for a long time I didn't, it just all went back into the business.
Yeah.
But you need to set some aside because in the future you're going to have things that come up. You're going to need equipment for one. It's going to
Hmm.
break. I go through laptops like crazy because I'm always on them. I mean, it's they just, I run them to death. But we have to have our equipment, and we're going to have new processes come up, new softwares come up, other things that are going to benefit us, and we're going to need to put the money into that. So we have to evaluate, like you're saying, we have to see where our metrics are, where our numbers, that's
Right.
key, is know your
Right.
numbers. Right?
Right.
In business, know your
And
numbers.
that's the hard part for I think a lot of people, whether women or men, is sitting down there. It's great to start a business and have money flowing and everything's going great, but then when you sit down there and break it up, like how much money do I want to spend a year on professional development, on taking a course or taking a workshop on learning how to do an application? How much is it going to cost me to do my marketing? How much is it's going to cost me to bring on that new app because that's going to bring in new customers? Those are things that you should be projecting in advance if you want to grow your business. And because if you don't do that, that money's coming in, but can't account for it,
Right,
and you're
absolutely.
back to working hard, like
To
as if
bring
you
in
had a
more
job.
business and everything else. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. You're absolutely right. You should be projecting that and
Hmm.
knowing where your money's going and
Hmm.
always looking at that. Because
Exactly.
if you don't know that, then yeah, there's no point in
No.
continuing to move forward because everybody that's probably watching this is wanting to grow their companies. They're wanting to go to the next level, be the multi VA companies or use subcontractors if you're a regular business, and they're trying to figure that out and how the
Right.
best way to do that is. Um,
Right.
so we have to do that. We have to sit down and figure that out. Now, as always, guys, we want you to send us questions. We love comments. Please leave comments. We're on YouTube now. So just please leave us comments. Also, tell us what kind of topics you all want to hear and what kinds of things you want us to talk about. And, we have guests on about every other month. So if you think of a guest that you want to see that would really interest you, let us know. We'll see what we can do because, we have a few connections. And once in a while we can do that. So we just really enjoy helping you guys out and helping your businesses grow. And if you have those burning questions, let us know because we're here to help you and we're looking forward to it. Remember, our website is va2va.com. That's VATOVA.com. And then we're on Facebook and Google Plus and now YouTube. So, look us up. And then, of course, individually, Lisa, Nanette, and I, Tammy, are happy to help you as well. And you can always email us through our site and things like that. Any last words, Lisa, Nanette?
I, I think this was a very productive broadcast. I hope that others will join us next month. I like the move to YouTube. We worked out the wrinkles, and I will have a camera that's working for our next broadcast.
Yeah, they have no idea all the wrinkles, do they?
Not at all.
One
But
day.
that's okay.
But that's okay. That's right. Nanette, any last comment?
No, except, it's a process. Let's just keep moving
Yeah.
forward.
Absolutely. And that's it. It's a journey, it's a process, and you're
Exactly.
always learning and growing. And I love that you brought up too about putting money aside for education. We need to continue to up our skills if we're going to offer our clients our best work and the best skills available, and even maybe money aside for your subcontractors. I don't know
Right.
if people do that, but I'm just saying that's another possibility. So we
That's
appreciate
right.
y'all watching very much. It's been Tammy, Lisa, and Annette with VA to VA. And we just love you guys and just appreciate y'all very much. And do leave us comments, please. Have a great day, and we'll see you in about a month or sooner. Thanks so much. And Lisa, you have the controls, so you stop us, please.